This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Brought to you by the Spam brand. I'm about to drop some sizzling hot knowledge, everybody. Did you know there's a blue can loved around the world with festivals dedicated to it? That's right, it's Spam Classic. The cultural icon went from fueling the world in the 1930s to earning its own museum. And today there are 12 mouth-watering varieties like teriyaki and Korean barbecue flavored, plus the original Spam Classic, ready to fry up in your favorite dish. Fans everywhere, keep sizzling it up, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Spam brand, sizzle pork, and Learn more at spam.com.
Okay, so my dog Little has figured out what a Chewy box looks like. And so she sees it and immediately assumes it's for her and goes rushing over to it.
Issa is the same way. She barks at everyone else, but the Chewy box, she's like, I'll let that one slide. You know what? I can't blame her. Chewy has over 100,000 products, food, treats, toys, beds, but all the stuff that both our dogs love.
And it shows up in like 1 or 2 days. Like I've barely hit the order button and it's already on my porch.
So convenient. And it's not just dog stuff. Birds, fish, reptiles. Chewy's got the whole pet universe covered.
You know what surprised me was the health side. Now, you know, my sweet Holly was a medically complex poodle with her heart disease and her kidney disease, and she needed a lot of prescription meds and prescription food. And Chewy was outstanding and really went above and beyond to make sure that she had what she needed. So I appreciate that. And Chewy will take care of all prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth, vet visits. The list goes on.
And they're now rolling out actual vet clinics. So that is huge.
Amazing. And if Little turns her nose up at something, which she does quite often, I can return it within a year with no questions asked. And if I ever need help, Chewy's 24/7 customer service is actually helpful.
Chewy just makes the whole pet parent thing feel easier.
They really do. For life with pets, the answer is Chewy. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping at chewpanions.chewy.com/howrude.
Welcome to Stuff You Should Know, a production of iHeartRadio.
Hey, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Josh Clark, and there's Charles W. Chuck Bryant, and Jerry's here too. And this is Stuff You Should Know, Postmodernism edition.
I'm strapping on my ice skates.
I know. Chuck, I was thinking about it. This may very well be the most difficult topic we've ever tackled.
Is this hard for you too?
Oh, yeah. It's hard for everybody. It's hard for everyone.
Oh, good.
It's very difficult. It's really hard to define. Mm-hmm. It's really easy to mischaracterize things as postmodern and lump stuff in, even though it is technically that. And worst of all, it's really easy for people to be snobby to other people about what is or isn't postmodernism. So it's going to be rough.
I think that's why I'm a little not nervous, because who really cares, right? It's just a podcast. But just unnerved because philosophical movements, art movements that have fuzzy boundaries. It's tough for me, always has been. I deal a little bit more in the concrete.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting, especially when, you look at some more, I don't know about cynical, but just sort of straightforward definitions of like what is postmodern art. And most people will say like, well, it's art that happened between 1955 and 1970 and right now.
Wrong.
Well, it's not wrong. It's an era. Like, that's where it gets slippery.
Right.
Because art is defined by eras. And even though people did things in the different eras that thematically and stylistically apply more to other eras, like, would you call The Godfather a postmodern film? No, but it was made in the postmodern film era.
Precisely. So the differentiation here then is that it begins. The differentiation here is the postmodernism that we're talking about is not just art. It's not just film. It's not just architecture. It's not even just philosophy. We're talking about an entire worldview that all of us collectively share. Most of us, I should say. I think, the West, you could say, if you want to call it that, shares this culture, postmodernist culture.
Post-World War II, generally.
Yeah, some people put it at the 70s, some people put it at the 60s. Other people even go as late as like basically 1979, 1980. But it's not just an art movement. It's not just a type of film. It's not just a type of literature. It's a way of looking at the world that in turn shapes how we create or exist or live in or deal with the world. And we do it together. It's culture. But the reason it's so fuzzy, Chuck, compared to other things is because it may still be going on right now. And if it isn't still going on right now, it ended so recently that we're still so wrapped up in the turbulent effects of it that it's hard to see which way's up, down, sideways. So it's really difficult to nail down, but it's really fun to try, I've found.
And it's the kind of thing where like they probably won't put a year marker until 30 years from now on what postmodernism is, which we'll get to.
Yeah, totally.
And even then it's not a cut and dried thing because a change like this happens over the course of a decade or two.
Yeah, or more even, for sure. More. And I would posit that we're in those decades of change right now. We're in a transition period between postmodernism and what's next. I think that's one reason why everything is just so uncomfortable right now, in addition to a pandemic being dropped on top of us at a really uncomfortable time.
And I would also say, after reading a lot about this stuff, I think art, visual art, like let's just say painting. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot more to it than that, but as opposed to literature and film, I think the boundaries there are a little more rigid than in things like literature and film, where they draw demarcation lines between pre-modern, modern, and postmodern eras a little more succinctly. Like technically anything made these days would be considered postmodern art. Just by the virtue of the fact that it's now, whereas you would not say a film is necessarily.
Right.
I quit.
No, you did great. We're doing great. Just hang in there, man. Just double up the strength of your fingernails and claw in further, okay?
I just feel the emails being typed.
It's fine. And you know what? We could go super postmodern and just totally ignore them like they don't exist. Because what is really an email? You know what I mean?
Yeah, or we could, a really postmodern email reply would be, I read your email and here's what I think, and just stop at THIN.
Yeah, that's pretty great. That would be great. So this is going to be fun. We're talking about postmodernism, and this is one of those things where we have to define it from the outset, which is the problem with postmodernism is figuring out how to define it. And before we go any further, every hat I own right now, I'm taking off for Dave Roos, who helped us put this together.
He did a great job.
He did a wonderful job. Like,
it was not fair to throw this at him.
No, I was really interested to see what he would do, and he did. He really rose to the occasion. He did a great job.
Smashing job.
He kind of started with this anecdote about a student of an art professor who asked his class, like, what is postmodernism? How do you define it? And the student said basically something that the professor later ripped off, which is it's where you put quotations around everything.
Yeah. It almost feels cynical in a way.
Yes, 100%.
Doesn't it?
1,000,000%. Like the age of cynicism. Remember the sarcasm of the 90s?
Mm-hmm. That went away.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You just did it. So all of that is 100% the cultural fabric of postmodernism. It's as we'll see, a tearing down, not just institutions and authorities and all that stuff, but other people. Just doing it as like just the most casual thing in the world, just tearing down. That is the cultural basis of postmodernism.
Yeah, like if someone were to talk about Andy Warhol soup cans, they can say, well, that's his truth in reality, but you would put that in quotes.
Right.
With your hands at a party.
You put truth in quotes, you put reality in quotes, and that's what that student was saying. You put everything in quotes because the philosophical basis of postmodernism is that there is no such thing as universal truth. There's no such thing as reality. Like your reality. You could put
soup cans in quotes.
You could. You could even, if you wanted to be a total jerk, you could do soup in quotes and cans in quotes.
And Andy Warhol in quotes.
Right. So, and Andy Warhol would love it. He would roll over in his grave, but it'd be like a dance move more than something out of agony, you know? So that's kind of what the student was saying. You put everything in quotes because there is no universal truth. And that is where postmodernism broke from its immediate predecessor, which is modernism, which said, no, there's all sorts of universal truths. And that carried on an even longer tradition of the idea that there's universal truths and we can try to find these through different ways.
Right. And with modernism, it was like, let's not use religion, let's use reason. And it's like a post-enlightenment sort of frame of mind where we can figure out these universal truths and we can apply them to our artworks, whether it's literature or, any kind of visual art. Right.
So with modern art, as weird as it can seem, as abstract as it can seem, what they were doing really ultimately at base followed in the tradition of like the Romanticists before them, of the Renaissance painters before them. They were all trying to move toward what's called sublime sensibility, which is this idea that there is a universal truth. There is universal beauty. There is universal like happiness. The nature is a universal. It's shared and common to all people. It exists in and of itself. And they just kind of chose a different way of going after that rather than painting like cherubs and the most amazing clouds you can possibly come up with, behind the crucifixion of Christ or something. They tried to evoke it through those shapes and colors and abstract paintings. But they were still at base after the same thing, which was uncovering that universal truth of like beauty.
Right. And then, we talked about it before, I took a philosophy class in college that both blew my mind and I just didn't even understand, but I tried. I think I actually made an A in it because I tried really, really, really hard in that class.
Nice.
No, kids, I tried hard in every class.
That's right.
But especially hard in philosophy. But I remember studying Nietzsche and some of it hitting home a little bit in that even though Nietzsche was for sure like postmodernism as far as an era is defined, but had these thoughts of postmodernism in that Nietzsche came along and said, you know what, there are perspectives. There is not a universal truth because we are all individuals and we all have our own unique perspective on what beauty might be or what truth might be or reality might be. So that I remember that speaking to me some more than I guess the modernist thought.
Yeah, because it makes sense. It's that whole kind of thing like, what is the color green to you? It's not the same to me. Or if you look at an apple on a table and then you move around the table, the apple changes shape. So depending literally on your perspective, you see things differently. And so what Nietzsche was saying is that if you take that and multiply it by however many billion people are on the planet, how can there possibly be such a thing as a shared reality? How can there possibly be such a thing as a universal truth? There can't. It's just not possible because not only do people see things differently, they have different experiences in their lives that alter perception even more minutely. It's just too complex. Humans and then collectively humanity is too complex to have universal truths. And so that was kind of the basis of his perspectivism that you were talking about. And then in turn, by proxy, he said, well, then that means that all of these meta-narratives, the stories that we tell ourselves, they're meaningless. They can't be true either.
Yeah, so what postmodernism would end up becoming is a rejection of modernism, and that would play out across all kinds of different kind of art forms that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but philosophically as well, because if science and reason bring us world war and nuclear bombs, then there's going to be, I think, a tendency to reject that. Yeah.
So kind of like, I think we talked about it before. I don't remember in what episode, but that World War I was like, it revealed the full horror of just putting all of your faith in science and reason, that like it would lead to technology that led to destruction. And then that was followed up by World War II and the Holocaust. It was followed up by things like lobotomies and phrenology and just mass destruction, the nuclear bomb. All of this stuff came from the application of science and reason faithfully, unerringly. And so postmodernism said, we need to get rid of this completely and totally. We need to tear it all down and start over. So the whole movement started out as a response, a reactionary response to the horrors of a different movement. And I think anytime you have a movement that's born out of a repellent response to something, it's going to be reckless. And I think in that sense, postmodernism is and always has been reckless because, again, it's all about tearing down. And it started with tearing down all of the pillars and the golden calves of modernism.
Well, reckless or free?
Both. It's definitely both.
All right.
I think it's very much both because I think, as we'll see later on, postmodernism ultimately led to its own horrors that we're living with today. And it was out of recklessness, I think.
Okay.
I think.
Talking about the digital age?
That's part of it for sure.
Should we take a break?
I think your dog says so.
Did you hear that? It is National Pet Day.
Okay, so my dog Little has figured out what a Chewy box looks like. And so she sees it and immediately assumes it's for her and goes rushing over to it.
Issa is the same way. She barks at everyone else, but the Chewy box, she's like, I'll let that one slide. And you know what? I can't blame her. Chewy has over 100,000 products, food, treats, toys, beds, but all the stuff that both our dogs love.
And it shows up in like 1 or 2 days. Like I've barely hit the order button and it's already on my porch.
So convenient. And it's not just dog stuff. Birds, fish, reptiles. Chewy's got the whole pet universe covered.
You know what surprised me was the health side. Now, my sweet Holly was a medically complex poodle with her heart disease and her kidney disease, and she needed a lot of prescription meds and prescription food. And Chewy was outstanding and really went above and beyond to make sure that she had what she needed. So I appreciate that. And Chewy will take care of all prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth, vet visits. The list goes on.
And they're now rolling out actual vet clinics. So that is huge.
Amazing. And if Little turns her nose up at something, which she does quite often, I can return it within a year with no questions asked. And if I ever need help, Chewy's 24/7 customer service is actually helpful.
Chewy just makes the whole pet parent thing feel easier.
They really do. For life with pets, the answer is Chewy. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping at chewpanions.chewy.com/howrude.
Joy is essential, and it's also elusive. You can't order it, you can't borrow it, or simply hope it into life. But now, there's a new and exciting way to start your journey toward a more joyful existence. Joy 101. It's a new podcast hosted by me, Hoda Kotb. Together, guys, we'll have meaningful conversations with the world's most fascinating people. Entertainment legends, sports icons, wellness experts, and everyday people will share how they find, allow, and experience joy. And I'll offer some of my own tips and takes on seeking a more balanced and harmonious life. If you're craving inspiration, support, and useful tools to maximize your joy, tune into these candid, uplifting, and moving on-air chats. Joy after a breakup, joy as an empty nester, joy after a loss, joy as a caretaker. This new podcast will speak to you. Listen to Joy 101 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can hear it, true, but now see it. Crime Stories now available with video episodes, free in the iHeart app. Watch all your favorite podcasts, full episodes, start to finish, gavel to gavel, soup to nuts, all in the free iHeart app. You can also watch all your other favorite podcasts like Hey Jonas, Las Culturistas, Post Run High, and so many more. Hear the voices you know. Now see them and see the moments you've missed. Open the iHeartRadio app, search video podcasts and crime stories, and then just tap watch. I'll see you on video, friend.
Things are getting eerie this week on Snafu with Ed Helms. My Favorite Murder hosts Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark join me for the unsolved kidnapping of William Morgan. It's a great true crime story filled with secret society intrigue and murder.
Freemason files.
Karen, you just birthed a conspiracy, and I'm here for it.
Yay.
Listen to Snafu on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Stuff is fun with
we're back. My dog barked again to signal us. And I guess we should just go ahead and say that the term itself, postmodernism, was coined by a French philosopher named Jean-Francois. How would you pronounce that? Is it Lyotard?
Lyotard.
Okay. And this was in 1979. So, people put the postmodern era, again, they're fuzzy numbers, but I've generally mostly seen sort of mid-1950s to early 1970s is kind of the beginning.
Right.
And so this was in 1979 when it was actually defined by Jean-Francois, who said, I define postmodern as incredulity toward meta-narratives, which you already talked about, these sort of stories that we tell ourselves that sort of give structure to all of our existence.
Yeah, it's like I saw it explained as meta-narrative is the blueprint that we carry out like our actions and our lives in. So that like without a blueprint, a plumber just laying pipe is just randomly laying pipe. There's no point or reason to what they're doing. But if they're following a blueprint, it gives their work meaning, guidance. There's a purpose to it. And so meta-narratives can take all sorts of different forms. From the free market is going to deliver us all to like this prosperous, happy, progressive future, to religion explains why we're here, to basically any grand story that's like the big picture. That's a meta-narrative. And we've got a lot of them. And postmodernism said not a single one of those is legitimate.
Well, I don't know about legitimate, but not a single one of those should be looked at as the truth.
Okay.
Like, I think they can be considered. But the problem, I think, with modernism, or at least as far as a postmodernist goes, is that they laid claim that these are the universal truths.
Okay. I think that was a very important nuance point that you're right.
All right.
I retract my original statement.
Okay.
We need a ding, Chuck, 1 point.
That'll be my only ding.
I don't know, man. You've been dinging it up already. I just haven't used the sound effect.
Okay. But it's, we talked about cynicism. It's also about skepticism, right?
Yeah. So I think that's part of the sarcasm and the irony. When you are sarcastic towards somebody, when you're ironic about, when you speak ironically about something, you're expressing skepticism that what that is true or cool or real or anything, whatever it is you're saying, as long as it's sarcastic or ironic, it's a form of skepticism. And that is kind of like the hallmark cultural move.
I think hallmark is good.
Okay, that's the cultural hallmark of postmodernism, I think. Irony and skepticism and sarcasm.
Okay, I agree with all that.
Ding.
Ding. Or we need Chris Hardwick on here just to say points.
Oh, that's a good one.
What's he doing these days? He could probably do that.
I think he's still doing the Talking Dead.
No, I'm sure he does plenty.
Yeah.
He's a brand unto himself.
Yeah, he's like the Ryan Seacrest of podcasting.
That's sure. He probably podcasts too, though.
Probably, but I think Chris Hardwick is still the Ryan Seacrest of podcasting.
Should we talk about art, like painting and stuff?
Yeah, because I think we laid the groundwork here. But let's just let's just go over this real quick one more time. Postmodernism is a recoil-repellent response to modernism, which produced all sorts of world wars and the nuclear bomb, and was based on authority figures and rigidity and universal truths, and you have to follow this, and you have to look at this way, and if you paint a different way outside of that, it's not really art. And the art world was one of the very firsts outside of philosophy to kind of rebel against that. The idea that there's anybody who could say that's art, that's not art. And one of the first people to really do that was the Dadaist Marcel Duchamp.
Yeah, so here's the thing with talking about eras of art. If you look at some of Duchamp's work, in particular, we should just go ahead and reference probably one of the most famous, which was what he called a ready-made, which was to take, in this case, a urinal, not built a urinal, but take a mass-produced urinal, signed a name on it. A pen name in this case was R. Mutt, M-U-T-T, and it called it Fountain in 1917. And this was a piece of art. And if you look at this piece of art, it is decidedly postmodern, but it was made, 5 to 6 decades before anyone would define art as postmodern art. And it lives like squarely in the middle. I don't know about in the middle, but it lives squarely in the modern art movement. So like the difference between, and I read a lot about this, between modern art and postmodern art is philosophical. It's also like cultural in that it was mainly men who were making the art. The postmodern art really brought along different cultural perspectives and female perspectives. It was also, I read, very goal-oriented, whereas postmodern art cared more about process. Apparently, modern art was very much still goal-oriented, even though they saw it as a rejection of the still life of the bowl of fruit on the table before them. A lot of the work still sort of echoed that kind of thing. And then you have Duchamp coming along with his toilet, which is completely postmodern, but lives in a modern era.
Right. And like you were saying, like he came decades before the postmodern era in exactly the same way that Nietzsche was laying the foundation for postmodernism and philosophy and culture decades before the postmodern era too, even further back than that. But there's just no way of looking at Duchamp's work any other way than this is a postmodern artwork. And not just that one, the fountain, like that was his like bread and butter, was using these ready-mades. And that was a huge foundation of the actual postmodern art movement that came later, which was, first of all, tearing down the distinction between high art and low art, because Duchamp was a serious artist exhibiting in serious galleries and museums and things like that. But he was also buying urinals, signing them, and calling it art. So in one way, that makes it like way more accessible to you and me. It makes it less scary. Like art's less scary. You don't have to be an expert to come into the art world now and appreciate art or laugh at art or take your, let the art, like stop taking life quite so seriously. But at the same time, it also, the fact that he went and bought something, he paid for something from a plumbing supply company that was mass produced, also laid the foundation for guys later like Andy Warhol, who melded consumerism into art to create pop culture, which opened the door for commoditization of art, which then opened the door for what we live in today, which is like art is advertising, basically. Like there's almost no distinction whatsoever. It's everywhere, and it's hijacked to sell things as much as it is to actually make art or make something beautiful or good or thought-provoking.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that the transition to postmodern art is really interesting because it opened it to different classes. Modern art was almost exclusively based in Europe and Russia, I guess, whereas postmodern art after World War II, things really, you could say all of the West basically was taking part. But just sort of outsider art and conceptual art and to things where we have today, we're like, well, someone will put a pile of sunflower seeds in the middle of a floor and call it art. That is the postmodern sort of rejection of what was already, I think, a pretty radical departure as far as the art world is concerned with modern art. Because when you have people like Jackson Pollock or, Picasso or the Cubist stuff, there was already, I think a lot of that stuff was a little bit slower to accept from sort of the traditional, pre-modern art critics.
Right.
So postmodern just blew past it.
It definitely did. And then, so Warhol comes along and creates pop art, and everybody starts definitely riffing on that vibe. But one of the other hallmarks of postmodern art is borrowing and remixing, mashing up other styles, other types of art from different eras, different media, and just kind of mixing it together in a brand new way. That's one of the hallmarks of postmodern art as well.
Yeah, I love that David Byrne quote you sent because he's a sort of the quintessential postmodern musician. And he said he was all about the mashing up and the mixing up of things, and it was just sort of a really free and creative time. So he was all about it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, especially now today, the world we live in, postmodernism has like a really bad name, almost across the board to everybody. But there was definitely a time where it was like glorious and beautiful and fun. And David Byrne was definitely there for that heyday for sure.
Can we talk about a couple of these other famous postmodern works?
Yeah.
The Treachery of Images is another one. And again, I think this was in the modern era technically, but it was one of the first seeds of what was to come. This was from René Magritte, and it is the very famous picture of a pipe, a smoking pipe, with a caption in French. It says, "This is not a pipe." But what would that be in French, my French-speaking friend?
Ce n'est pas une pipe.
You sounded literally like the Google person or the YouTube translator.
Josh says.
I did not know you had that as a moonlighting job.
I do, and I'm making almost no money off of it, but it's a labor of love.
But this is a great example of what was to come with postmodernism, which is, here's a picture of a pipe. It is clearly a pipe, but it says this is not a pipe because perspective, baby. That's not my reality. There is no objective truth.
Yeah, that's another thing that postmodernism kind of came along and warned everybody about, is us putting all of our faith in just casual trust in the images and words that we've created to create our culture, right?
Yeah.
And so Magritte was saying, and this is like quintessential postmodernism, that this is not a pipe. It's a picture of a pipe. You can't trust it. You can't use it. You can't stuff it with tobacco and smoke it. Don't call it a pipe. It's not really a pipe. And that kind of like postmodern thought where there was no real meaning to pictures, images, words, sounds, aside from what we ascribe to them.
Yeah.
It kind of eventually morphed into this weird thing where we got really comfortable with that, David Byrne idea of remixing everything, of using these different things and these different codes to create new meanings. But at the same time, we were simulating reality in different ways. And so eventually we started to lose the ability to distinguish between reality, like anything approaching what we would call like real reality, and simulated reality, which was all the words and images and pictures that we just kind of take for granted are real, but actually aren't. They're all just symbols that we've stopped seeing as symbols. And so what postmodernism was warning about, what Magritte was warning or kind of reminding us of, ended up subverting itself and creating an inability in us here living today to distinguish between simulated reality and real reality. Because you're a terrible example of this, but the average person out there, when's the last time you actually went out in the woods?
Oh, sure.
It's probably been a really long time. When's the last time you saw a video or an image of the woods? And to your brain, you're like, oh yeah, I've probably been in the woods pretty recently. No, you haven't. You haven't been in the woods in years. You saw it on TV last week. That's the most recent brush with the woods that you've had. That's what has been the result of postmodernism. And it's interesting that they were originally warning about it and then came to kind of throw this shackle on all of us.
Yeah, I like this other example because I think this I think when people of the time might have seen Magritte's "This is not a pipe," I'm sure like your average person might just say, "What are you even talking about with this?"
Yeah.
Or somebody might see that today and say that. But totally. in the 60s, Dave found this other great example that very much evokes that "This is not a pipe" work from Joseph Kosuth, 1 in 3 chairs. And I think this one is more likely to get through to someone who may not typically understand this kind of philosophy, which is it's a real folding chair, and then it's flanked by a black and white photograph of that same exact folding chair, and then a placard with a dictionary definition of chair. And I think this is a little more accessible for your average Joe to maybe come up and say, oh, I get what they're doing here. Like, I might not fully understand it, but like, I see what they mean. This is a chair, and this is a chair, and this is a chair.
Plus, it's not in French.
Yeah, exactly.
It automatically makes it more accessible to the average Joe.
Yeah. How would you say that in French? Do you even know? 1 in 3 chairs?
Une, tres chairs.
Is it chairs?
I haven't gotten to that on my YouTube channel yet. So, no, I can't remember what chair is, but I'll bet some people are going to write in and tell us.
Yeah, but you know what all of this did was, in speaking in terms of like this kind of visual art, is it opened the doors not only for different cultures and different people and different classes and races and men and women and all across the gender spectrum to open up their minds and create, but it was a lot of times it was shocking, and it allowed them to really push the boundaries of what art could even be, which was a new thing.
I was reading up. Do you remember the huge controversy in the late 80s? It turned out to be 1987. I didn't remember that. But with that image, Piss Christ.
I don't remember that.
It was an enormous thing. The National Endowment of the Arts got its funding slashed as a result because it turned out, so this artist, I can't remember his name, but he did a photo series of a crucifix in different body fluids, like his own blood. And then this one was submerged in his own urine. And it's actually pretty until you realize what you're looking at. And it set a lot of Christians, including Jesse Helms, off.
Yeah.
And they went crazy on the National Endowment of the Arts. This artist lost a bunch of funding. Yeah. It was a big deal. And it brought to the fore this kind of culture clash of no one, especially not Jesse Helms, can say what's art and what's not art. This artist has created something and he says this is art, it's art. And that in and of itself is a very postmodern way of looking at things. And also, it turned out the artist himself is like a devout Catholic. He didn't mean it blasphemously at all.
That was designed to provoke, I'm sure.
It was. I can't remember exactly what his purpose of it was, but I don't think he meant anything to happen like it happened.
Right.
But even that's just beside the point. The point was there was a fight over what's art, and a lot of the arch conservatives won that fight by slashing the National Endowment of the Arts and giving it a bad name because it's a federally funded agency, and so taxpayer money was going into it. Taxpayers who didn't think that was art at all didn't want their money going to it. And it was quite a big kerfuffle, but it was super postmodern while it was happening.
Right. And they were like, what's wrong with a bowl of fruit on a table? Can't we just paint that forever?
Exactly.
Everyone loves the bowls of fruit.
How about some more of those Georgia O'Keeffe flowers? I love those for some reason I can't quite put my finger on.
Oh, that's funny. Should we take a break, or should we talk about literature then take a break?
That's up to you. It's up to your doggy.
All right. Nico says go forward with literature.
Okay, cool.
The modernist movement with literature featured people like Joyce and Virginia Woolf. And this is, again, sort of with modern art, boundaries were being pushed in different directions from sort of the old school of literary styles. All of a sudden you had stream of consciousness happening, nonlinear narratives happening. This is where free verse poetry was born. But then postmodernists came along and they went, oh, you think that's pushing the boundaries? Let me introduce you to Thomas Pynchon and Joseph Heller and people like this who really took things to an nth degree, to the point where you found that one book that just stopped in the middle of the first chapter over and over.
Yeah, there's a book by Italo Calvino called If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler. It's from 1979. It's a quintessential postmodern novel in that it's written in the second-person perspective. So he talks about you. So you're the main character. Mm-hmm. And it starts out by saying, you are about to begin reading Italo Calvino's new novel, If on a Winter Night, a Traveler. Relax, concentrate, dispel every other thought. So the author is directing you, the reader, to begin the novel that you're reading. So you're immediately the character. Like he's writing about you in this page.
Yeah.
And then it very quickly careens from what you would consider real. Like the book runs out on page 32 in the book. The book you're actually reading still goes on.
Yeah.
It's just in the book that happens. So now you, the character, have to go to the bookstore and you get another version and you end up reading 10 different beginnings to the same book. But the upside of it is you fall in love with Ludmila, the bookstore shopkeeper as well. So it's completely out of left field and you could say absurd, and that is quintessentially postmodern too. James Joyce wasn't doing anything quite like that.
No, not at all. And this is where I have an appreciation for it. I think very clever. I see what you're doing there. But I would rather read a good novel from beginning to end with a great story.
So that, Chuck, that is a real criticism of postmodernism.
Sure.
Because everything's meaning is up for grabs. It's up in the air. There's no universal truth. And if you can put meaning in air quotes as well, that means by proxy that everything is meaningless in a certain way of looking at it. And so, yeah, it's cool. That was an interesting thing, and it kind of was clever. But is it as satisfying? Is it as meaningful as, like you said, a good novel? Like an actual novel that follows like maybe a little more structure or rules. Some people would say no, but a lot of people would say yes. And they would point to the idea that there's this kind of nihilistic bent in postmodernism in every form, whether it's visual art, film, novels, that makes it less important in a way. And again, I personally think it's because postmodernism was born as a repellent response to a long-standing thing, and that it was automatically born on shaky, reckless ground. And that how can you create something beautiful if you don't think there is such a thing as beauty? How can you create something meaningful if you don't think there is such a thing as meaning? And if there is no such thing as meaning, then stop writing, because you're just doing that for money now at this point.
Right, which I think was the goal-oriented movement of modern art. It didn't specifically say, but what else would the goal be?
Right.
Rather than to have a showing and sell paintings.
Yes.
Some of the other sort of elements of postmodern literature, one is paradox and randomness. Books like Slaughterhouse-Five and Catch-22, you started seeing... and even though there were nonlinear narratives before, you found stories that were really told out of order at this point, and that even had facts that don't align with one another, where you might say, well, that doesn't even make sense sometimes, according to what I had previously read, like even earlier in the same book or chapter, sometimes purposefully obfuscating meaning or disorienting the reader. And then this whole idea of intertextuality, which is sort of the mashup that David Byrne was talking about, but in this case with literature, incorporating plot lines and characters from other works or other tropes and literary ideas, kind of bringing them all into one book.
Yeah, like a good example of that is not found in literature, but in TV, in the character of John Munch, who's a detective who started out as a detective on the TV show Homicide: Life on the Street. And then that same character appeared on Law & Order SVU. He was a recurring longtime character on that show, right?
So is it the same actor?
Yes, same actor, same character.
Is this part of the St. Elsewhere universe theory?
Yes. The Tommy Westphall, the Tommy Westphall universe. Yeah, John Munch is like one of the fulcrums of that universe.
Oh, wow.
Because he's also been on X-Files. He's also been on The Wire. Like, he's this character that people like love and love to bring into their own show, even though they had nothing to do with Homicide: Life on the Street. And so that's a really good example of intertextuality. This character keeps popping up in different works, and it's the same character. And in him appearing there, it's saying this show exists in the same universe as this show. And yes, you can all trace it back to the St. Elsewhere finale, which I think we talked about in our Nutso Fan Theories episode.
Yeah, Tarantino does that a lot too, with the Vega brothers, and I think that was...
Red Apple Cigarettes.
Yeah, and there was a character in Jackie Brown that was also in... I can't think of his name. One of the FBI guys. Michael Keaton played him in Out of Sight. But I think that was a recurring character in different... without any real sort of... it's not like, Alfred from Batman appearing in different Batman movies. It's sort of out of context intertextuality, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And then also Tarantino is a good example of postmodernism as far as like pastiche, which is just such an obnoxious word. But once you look into it, it's basically just borrowing other styles and kind of in the postmodern sense, mashing them together. So Tarantino was like crazy about like 70s kung fu stuff or 70s gangster flicks.
Right.
And he would use those. He would actually take characters who were based on those other eras and those other styles and put them all into the same movie, into the same universe together. That's pastiche, and that's another very postmodern thing. Wes Anderson is another good example. His like just parallel love of mid-century like looks and design.
Yeah.
That's a pastiche. Although it turns out he's a postmodern director in almost every sense of the word.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pulp Fiction is very commonly referred to as sort of one of the hallmarks of postmodern filmmaking, in that not only the mashups, but the nonlinear storytelling, the good guys are bad guys are good guys, the sort of rejection of purpose, like, you know, what's in the briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a very and I think that's why I never really cared that much, but I think it's why it drove a lot of people crazy, because as filmgoers were so trained to have to know what's in that briefcase
Right.
because it should have some sort of meaning. And he was kind of turned it on its ear a little bit. And then everybody copied for the next decade Pulp Fiction. And there were so many bad half ripoffs made.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say any. There's one I could call out, but I'm not going to.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
You text it to me or something.
I will. But have you seen Severance on Apple TV?
Yeah, I'm about halfway through. I love it.
It's so good. That's like a good example of that, leaving people wanting more and just absolutely not giving it to them. Like, sorry. There's no resolution. It's just crazy how strung out you feel after the last episode.
Oh boy, I can't wait. All right, I think we should. Oh shoot, we got to take our second break now.
Yeah, we definitely do.
And we'll talk a little bit more about film and sum this all up, maybe.
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back.
Okay, so my dog Little has figured out what a Chewy box looks like. And so she sees it and immediately assumes it's for her and goes rushing over to it.
Issa is the same way. She barks at everyone else, but the Chewy box, she's like, I'll let that one slide. You know what? I can't blame her. Chewy has over 100,000 products: food, treats, toys, beds, but all the stuff that both our dogs love.
And it shows up in like 1 or 2 days. Like, I've barely hit the order button and it's already on my porch.
So convenient. And it's not just dog stuff. Birds, fish, reptiles. Chewy's got the whole pet universe covered.
You know what surprised me was the health side. Now, you know, my sweet Holly was a medically complex poodle with her heart disease and her kidney disease, and she needed a lot of prescription meds and prescription food. And Chewy was outstanding and really went above and beyond to make sure that she had what she needed. So I appreciate that. And Chewy will take care of all prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth, vet visits. The list goes on.
And they're now rolling out actual vet clinics. So that is huge.
Amazing. And if Little turns her nose up at something, which she does quite often, I can return it within a year with no questions asked. And if I ever need help, Chewy's 24/7 customer service is actually helpful.
Chewy just makes the whole pet parent thing feel easier.
They really do. For life with pets, the answer is Chewy. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping at chewpanions.chewy.com/howrude.
Joy is essential, and it's also elusive. You can't order it, you can't borrow it, or simply hope it into life. But now, there's a new and exciting way to start your journey toward a more joyful existence. Joy 101. It's a new podcast hosted by me, Hoda Kotb. Together, guys, we'll have meaningful conversations with the world's most fascinating people. Entertainment legends, sports icons, wellness experts, and everyday people will share how they find, allow, and experience joy. And I'll offer some of my own tips and takes on seeking a more balanced and harmonious life. If you're craving inspiration, support, and useful tools to maximize your joy, tune into these candid, uplifting, and moving on-air chats. Joy after a breakup, joy as an empty nester, joy after a loss, joy as a caretaker. This new podcast will speak to you. Listen to Joy 101 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can hear it, true, but now see it. Crime Stories now available with video episodes, free in the iHeart app. Watch all your favorite podcasts, full episodes, start to finish, gavel to gavel, soup to nuts, all in the free iHeart app. You can also watch all your other favorite podcasts like Hey Jonas, Las Culturistas, Post Run High, and so many more. Hear the voices you know, Now see them and see the moments you've missed. Open the iHeartRadio app, search video podcasts and crime stories, and then just tap watch. I'll see you on video, friend.
Things are getting eerie this week on Snafu with Ed Helms. My Favorite Murder hosts Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark join me for the unsolved kidnapping of William Morgan. It's a great true crime story filled with secret society intrigue and murder.
Freemason files.
Karen, you just birthed a conspiracy, and I'm here for it.
Yay.
Listen to Snafu on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Learning stuff is fun with Josh and Chuck. Stuff you should know.
All right, so Pulp Fiction is routinely singled out as a postmodern film. The one that's considered probably the godfather of all of them is 8.5 by Fellini, Federico Fellini. I've never seen it. Have you?
Yeah, sure. Godfather, not in the movie sense.
Right.
So we don't confuse everybody.
I think you just did. I think you planted that about 40 minutes ago.
I might have. Yeah, I've seen 8.5. It's if you've taken any sort of film appreciation class in college, you're going to see it. It's Fellini's, one of Fellini's masterpieces. The whole movie could be described as a metafiction because it's a film about making a film. Mm-hmm. It's really good. It's dreamy and trippy and confusing. It's full of a lot of dream sequences, and reality and fiction are blurred. Highly recommend seeing 8.5 and then reading a lot about it afterward.
I love that.
Make sense about it.
That's one of my favorite types of movies, is a movie that you can watch and then go find a bunch of film crit on it.
Yeah.
That explains it or points it out. It just discusses it. I love that kind of thing.
I finally saw Casablanca, by the way.
Oh, great. What'd you think?
I'm not going to say medium. It was really good. I would not put it among the best films I've ever seen or ever made. But
even as a mainstream film?
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was really, really good, but I definitely didn't see oh my God, this is the best film I've ever seen type of feeling.
Yeah, I think people leave out that it's one of the best mainstream films ever made of the, first half, I guess the first half of the century, or the middle of the century. I would even expand it out to. Right. I loved it. I think it's just a great movie. But I'm
really
glad
enjoyed
you saw it finally.
But it was, I think maybe the expectation. It's sort of like when I saw Citizen Kane for the first time after so much buildup. It really delivered on that, as far as I think just breaking boundaries of filmmaking and raising the bar. And I don't feel like Casablanca did that. I thought it was kind of just a normal, really good movie.
Yeah. Very normal and mainstream, but a good one. Agreed. So 8.5. It's like you said. It's a meta narrative basically. And anytime you see something dreamy or weird, or people play themselves or strange versions of themselves, you have stumbled into a postmodern film. A really good example of that is basically everything Charlie Kaufman's ever written or directed.
Yeah. Oh boy,
Synecdoche, New York is probably one of the most postmodern films ever made. But then also, so is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But people are that's not truly postmodern in every sense. But it checks enough boxes that you could say that's definitely a postmodern film. Same with being John Malkovich.
Yeah,
that's
an adaptation.
Postmodern. Yeah,
I mean that's the currency he deals in.
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't seen the most recent one with Jesse Plemons. I got to check that out.
I'm thinking of Ending Things.
Yeah, is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so. I saw the Nicolas Cage movie that's coming out. I ended up at a screener.
Was it good?
It is very good, but it's very postmodern too. Nicolas Cage plays himself, and it's just completely off the rails from time to time. And in a lot of ways, it reminded me of Adaptation, where it purposefully goes off the rails to make a point, like Adaptation did. And so it borrowed from that, and it didn't, it certainly seemed that way even more because Nicolas Cage is in it. But it's a pretty good movie. It's worth seeing for sure.
And, shout out while we're off track. I just saw the Nicolas Cage movie Pig.
Oh, yeah?
From last year. about a former chef who is a truffle hunter and is trying to find his pig. And Stuff You Should Know listener, I believe, because he was a Movie Crush listener, Michael Sarnowski directed that movie.
Oh, neat. I've heard good things about it.
It's fantastic.
That's awesome.
It's really, really good. So
I will definitely check it out then.
All right, let's wrap this up, I guess. Should we talk about, I don't know, criticisms?
Sure. Also, we just need to definitely give a shout out. Postmodernism and architecture is also a thing.
Shout out to Frank Gehry.
Right. It's almost its own track, but it had an even more abrupt change than, say, like film or art did. Like it went from minimalist, functional design to just take everything apart, tear it down, and put it back together in weird ways. And Frank Gehry is the embodiment of the postmodern star-architect, is what they call him.
Yeah, and I think if you want to, a good example, if you want to look at modern versus postmodern, you can look at the two Guggenheims from Frank Lloyd Wright in New York to Gehry's in Spain. I was just in New York and went to the Guggenheim and saw the Kandinsky exhibit. Highly recommend going to that before it closes.
Nice.
Or anything at the Guggenheim, because just being in that building is quite an experience.
Still have never been.
Oh my God. You're kidding.
No.
It's the best one.
It's the best Guggenheim?
It's my favorite museum in the world.
Really?
Yeah, because you're in and out in a couple of hours. It's not intimidating. You just ascend up that circular ramp and see a lot of great art over a couple of hours, and then you're out of there. And the building itself is art.
Very nice. Well, check it out.
It's like
then.
Going to the Met is intimidating. The Guggenheim is not intimidating.
I'm going to get super efficient and watch Pig and go to the Guggenheim in the same day.
You totally should. Go to New York. Don't watch a movie in New York. Watch it on the plane.
There you go. I have to really select my airline carefully.
All right. So criticisms of postmodernism, like you said, it is a bit of a punching bag these days, and maybe kind of always has been. But you have people from both sides of the political spectrum criticizing postmodernism, whether it's sort of the old school leftists who think like, no, it has nothing to do with social progress. All this individualism is no good for our movement. To conservatism.
Mm-mm.
Conservatism. Which is we do not like this whole there is no right or wrong. It's all about your perspective things, because there's definitely right and wrong, everybody.
Yes. Like, how can you ban a book when it's not demonstrably wrong for asserting a viewpoint that's outside the norm, you know?
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So, of course, they don't like the idea of moral relativism. But I was surprised that the leftists thought that until I learned that Leotard himself was basically like, this is a strange new unhappy direction that we're going in, and they laid it at the feet of the failure of Marxism to kind of bring about like collective social progress. And then the response to that was Thatcher's and Reagan's neoliberal policies that basically said deregulate everything, make as much money as you can at the expense of whoever you need to, and let's go global, baby. And that is part and parcel with postmodernism as far as economics is concerned. And if you're an economist and a philosopher and you're looking at postmodernism, probably to you, late capitalism and postmodernism are basically interchangeable words.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why so many people are so sick of postmodernism, because there isn't anything right, there isn't anything wrong, there is no truth, there is no morality. It's just get as rich as you can is a huge part of it too. The commodification of art really kind of laid the groundwork for that, and it's permeated everywhere, right? So now people say, okay, we're sick of postmodernism, we think it's dead, what's next? So Chuck, what is next after postmodernism?
Well, I certainly don't know, but you sent along some interesting reading for me to ponder. And the general thought is that we are in an era now of, and again, it won't be probably defined until 10 to 20 years later, but hypermodernism, which is what this article calls postmodernism on steroids, where advertising is art and where tech companies are the governments of the world, or at least as influential as the governments of the world and the religions of the world. or meta-modernism, which is not quite hyper-modernism, right? It's sort of hearkening back to modernism.
Yes, but with the advantage of having seen the failures of modernism before and then having lived through postmodernism. So it's this idea that there is such a thing as beauty and truth and nature, and that they are important and they matter and they're things we should move towards, and that we should be positive and inclusive. So Ted Lasso is like a cartoonish embodiment of meta-modernism.
Yeah.
And we see this clash going on right now, Chuck. Like, there's a huge clash in like every kind of culture war. It's between people who are saying like, no, we need to keep extracting and consuming, and other people are like, no, we need to go a different track and like say save the planet or whatever. And some philosophers say this is the split that postmodernism kind of broke into, and right now we're figuring out which direction we're going to go in. Save the planet. Ruin the planet. Like that kind of black and white choice is basically being laid out for us right now, and that's our place in history. And no one has any idea which one's going to win out. Although some people say hypermodernism already has. Like, we're just too much slaves to our devices, and we've just been co-opted by technology too deeply already to get ourselves out of it. Other people say not so fast, including Ted Lasso.
Well, all of this stuff that you sent me about meta-modernism made me finally understand one of my favorite singer, country artist, Sturgill Simpson's first record was called Meta-Modern Sounds in Country Music. And now that title makes more sense to me than it ever did, because he is a country singer who sort of defies the modern country singing movement by hearkening back to another time. He's like a progressive liberal country singer, so that doesn't go over well in a lot of circles of country music.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
I think so.
Like when he got COVID and he was sort of speaking out about it, I was reading Fox News comments about this, and people were like, who even is this guy? He's no country star. I've never even heard of him. Like,
Field dress him like a deer.
That's because they don't play him on modern country music stations, because he doesn't sing about tailgating. But his first record is called Meta-Modern Sounds in Country Music, and it's fantastic. He sounds like a mashup of Waylon Jennings and George Jones, if that tells you where he's coming from.
Dude, how could you go wrong with that?
Exactly.
With a little bit of Joan Baez thrown in.
Yeah, why not?
So Sturgill Simpson is possibly the future, or Bitcoin mining is the other future. It's our choice, everybody. Who knows where we'll end up, but we'll find out.
All right.
So that was postmodernism.
The surface.
Yeah, we did. And that's the stuff you should know way. If you want to know more about postmodernism, there's a lot to go read about it. There's a lot to read about hypermodernism, metamodernism, postmodernism. It's really, really interesting rabbit holes to go down. You can make a hobby out of it. And since I said you can make a hobby out of it, it's time for listener mail.
I'm going to follow this up. This was about the short stuff about nose breathing, and that you got a toothache from nose breathing. This is from a, quote, qualified dentist working in the UK.
Nice.
Named Tom Park. Hey, guys. I'll kind of skip the greetings for length, but he goes on to say the maxillary? The maxillary sinuses, usually referred to just as the sinuses, sit next to the nose about in the region of your upper cheeks and extend to the front of your face on either side of the nose. They're very close to the ends of the roots of your molars, premolars, and sometimes canines, where all the nerves supplying your teeth enter those teeth. When you have sinusitis, this can feel like a toothache even a couple weeks after the blocked nose symptoms have settled, and lots of people come to the dentist around wintertime with toothaches, which is ultimately put down to this phenomenon.
Oh, man.
I had it myself once, and the jog I went on was agonizing, and my empathy for my patients grew considerably.
That's nice.
This can also occur when you breathe in very cold air through your nose. If that air then goes into the sinuses, but it's usually more transient. I hope this helps. Perhaps Josh should check with his own dentist to see if he has cavities that need managing.
Well, this was like a decade or so ago. What's the dentist's name? The qualified dentist?
Tom Park.
Thank you, Tom. This was this is probably more like, oh my God, 20 years ago. when it happened, thankfully.
Oh,
and
okay.
I definitely did have a cavity that needed to be filled back there. But I went to the dentist recently, Chuck, and get this.
Yeah.
My dentist said that she's going to need to raise my sinus. And I was like, how do you raise a sinus? She said, well, they used to do it with the hammer and chisel. We still got the hammer and chisel, but we have a better way of doing it now that's less painful. But they used to go in and put like a chisel up under like your sinus and then tap it and actually raise your sinus. It sounds medieval.
Are you going to do it?
To quote Pulp Fiction. Yeah, I'm going to have to because I need like a little bit of bone put back there, and they can't do it without raising the sinus.
Oh, man.
I'll keep you posted.
I'll be without my tooth, man. What's going on with us?
I don't know. Like, we were genetically conferred with terrible teeth, I think.
And by the way, Tom Park also says, by the way, also your description of the audience in Manchester who didn't clap until the very end made me laugh out loud. As a Mancunian myself, I can tell you that we are not easily impressed. So good on you for earning that clap. And that is from dentist Tom Park. Go to Tom Park if you're anywhere in the UK. You should make that trip to see Tom.
He's got the empathy.
It's right.
He loves Ted Lasso.
Loves.
If you want to be like Tom Park and write in about something we talked about, we love that kind of stuff. When somebody comes back and crosses a T or dots an I or adds an ellipse even, although we don't like the ellipses that much. And you can put that all into an email.
Yeah.
And send it off to stuffpodcast@iheartradio.com.
Stuff You Should Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
This is Jody Sweeten.
And this is Andrea Barber from How Rude Tanneritos.
Chewy has over 100,000 products. Food, treats, toys, beds, and everything ships fast.
And it's not just for dogs. Cats, birds, fish, reptiles. I mean, they got everybody covered.
Plus, prescriptions, pet insurance, and telehealth vet visits.
And vet clinics are rolling out now, which I love.
So many great things. And if your pet doesn't love something, return it within a year.
For life with pets, the answer is Chewy. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping at chewpanions.chewy.com/howrude.
Joy is essential and it's also elusive. But now there's a new and exciting way to start your journey toward a more joyful existence. Joy 101. It's a new podcast hosted by me, Hoda Kotb. If you're craving inspiration, support, and useful tools to maximize your joy, tune into these candid, uplifting, and moving on-air chats. Listen to Joy 101 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.